getting ready to start the front of the house, the roof. It meant that I needed to create some more trestles. Um, this time they're going to be a lot higher because the height of the roof at the front is higher than the roof at the back by about a metre. So I've looked around to see what I've got lying around as far as materials are concerned, and I've still got a few of the trunks of the pines that I've cut down and some of the thicker branches, and I have got some of the OSB board, which I bought specifically for things like this, just as a temporary platform before I can then utilize it for the actual flooring, perhaps in one of the bedrooms. So it's always a handy. It's not overly expensive. It's always a handy material to have on site. So I've got my branches and stuff. It's all a bit of a mess in the front garden because a little while ago, or before I bought it, somebody had a go at chopping some of the branches down. I suppose to try and take some photos of the house, and try and make it look a wee bit better than it did for the sale value. And they just lumped all the branches into the front garden right and left side of the garden path, which runs up the middle of the house to the front door. So it's forever faffing about with these things because I haven't got a truck. I've only got a little car. I haven't got a tow bar. I haven't got a trailer. So what I'm going to have to do is try and get organised. And when it comes down to it, I will hire a van when I bring my other stuff over from Normandy to the house. And during the week that I've got it on hire, I'll then start doing my trips to the déchetterie with the pine. The problem with the pine is you can't burn. It's not worth trying to burn it. It's so smoky because it's so humid, so much moisture in pine. It will burn eventually, but it's a bugger to get going, and it's just like a mass of smoke for a good couple of hours before it gets under control. So the best way of doing that is just to get it down the déchetterie, get it into a van, do a few trips, get it away. The larger trunks and the very large branches, I can utilise. I can cut down, and I can make some raised beds in the garden. So it's really just like the foliage side of it and the thinner sections that you can't do much with. I'd like to try and make some trellis as well with the pine branches, if possible. We'll see how we get on with that. So utilising the chainsaw to cut bits and pieces away from the trees that are tight to the house, and the chainsaw, I used it in the loft to cut down part of an oak purlin, which was rock solid, and I think it's just damaged the chain. It's blunted the chain. So I have got a kit somewhere for sharpening chains, but where it is, nobody knows. So what I'll probably end up doing is buying a couple of spare chains from Amazon or whatever, and then I can get going again on cutting some of the stuff down. So it didn't prove to be overly useful on this one. I had to cut the section of purlin down because it was right in the way of one of the Velux windows. As you're looking at the house from the rear on the right hand side, the window, the lowest window, which is going to be for the kitchen, it had a big chunk of purlin coming right the way through it. So it had to be cut off, and it was very, very thick, and I didn't fancy having to go with the jacksaw. So I'm probably saying hi to somebody there, one of the neighbours, wishing me well. So getting back to this trestle, the one on the left hand side is mainly branches and stuff and bits of trunk. What I've done is I put a brace on from the tree that's closest to the house to another branch on the right hand side against the house to take the board that I put on. And then what I'd be looking to do is obviously you I'll have to double the boards up anyway. So you'd have two OSB boards to take my weight and the weight of the tiles and stuff. But you have to give it some support in the centre as well. Really should be supported every couple of feet, every 60 centimetres. It's not overly critical with this because it's only temporary. But it does need something in the centre. So I ended up with there was a couple of largest chunks of branch or trunk that I then cut down and made sort of an A frame in the middle of the platform. But there's a lot of playing around and stuff with this because obviously nothing is pre-cut, so you have to sort of measure, work out your angles, and then try and get it into place and screw it on. I decided to do all this myself because I looked into buying a tower. The cheapest towers are about 200 euros, and they're only about 2 meters wide, 2.5 meters wide, which means you'd be forever moving the thing around. And bear in mind, I've already made the trestles for the rear roof, which were very successful. And then I made more trestles, slightly higher ones, in the loft, which again was successful in getting me up to height. Something I could then add on the telescopic ladder too. So rather than buying several towers or even renting scaffolding, because the scaffolding for this, I think they quoted about 650 euros. And that was for, I think, 3 weeks. And then after that, they start charging you more. And I just thought, no, sod it. I'll make my own. It's not massively high, and it's not overly difficult to do. It's just a bit of time consuming. Because I've got so much stuff lying around, I can use to make these things up. So I'm sort of playing. So it's a bit Heath Robinson, but they do work. These things do hold. I mean, I put a massive amount of weight on the rear trestles and the trestles in the loft that were taking out like hundreds of tiles at a time. And here we are on the right hand side now. So the right hand side is more of the old rafters that came off. So I had 4 decent long rafters, and then I've just put brackets on them just to cut the rafters down to about 35, 36 inches or 90 centimeters to go across. And then I've got some spare rafters, which I know I won't be needing on this front. I won't need at least these 3. So I then utilize those, which means that I don't have to have anything supported in the middle because the 3 rafters going across there. The board itself is about 650 centimeters wide, or 65 centimeters wide, rather, or about 27 inches. So, because you've got 3 boards there, obviously you've got one either end, and then you've got a board in the middle, and that's more than enough then to distribute weight across it. And 3 boards will be good. In the 3 rafters, the new rafters, will be more than enough to help support that. And again, I will double up the OSB board, so there'll be 2 boards going on it. And with the 2 boards on it and a couple of screws in, that's not really going anywhere. And then, just to stop it from wanting to rock forward, I had another trunk which I came across, which I ended up cutting down. So to look at it, it all looks a bit bizarre, but it's practical. I can use a telescopic ladder to get up onto these trestles either side, and they don't budge. They take my weight, and the tiles, and then it would just be a question of making a little platform for over the porch area, because obviously the porch is in the way of the works, but it would be a handy little area to stack tiles and stuff. So what I'll do is I'll make a little platform that can sit on that over the existing timbers that are there, and then I'll be able to load up that area as well with tiles. So trying to utilise the space as best as possible, rather than taking the porch apart and working across it that way. I don't know whether it would be able to take apart anyway. It's got the old perspex sheeting left and right side of it, and then on the top. Excuse me. Um, so I don't want to take the risk on that. Just leave it as it is, and I'll work around it. And like I say, I can store some tiles and stuff on it. Now the guttering that you see on there, the all zinc guttering, is absolutely knackered. So there's 1,000 holes in it, and it's wafer thin. So that will be coming off, and that will be replaced with PVC guttering and downpipes. And again, I'll be utilising the downpipes to go into water butts to try and conserve as much rainwater as possible, so that when I'm coming to do the gardening, I'll have a good access, a good supply of rainwater to work with. I'll do that as well at the rear. I had considered that you can buy these things that you actually sink into the ground, and then you can pump the stuff up, and they take an enormous amount of rainwater. But again, when you look at the cost involved, it becomes kind of not worthwhile. And I'm quite a keen gardener, so once I get going on the garden done, I'll be using the water a lot, probably daily. I normally water daily, particularly pots and things. And obviously, because it'll be a new garden, it will be all this stuff that'll be going in will be freshly rooted, so it will need a lot of watering anyway. So here I am putting a few more brackets and things on to the trestles, a few screws and stuff, just so that the OSB doesn't want to slide on the new rafters. Obviously, the sticky out bits at the end there, I won't be standing on those. That's really just, I didn't want to be cutting down these rafters just in case at some stage I do need one or two. But I've still got, even using those three, I still have, I think, another 4 lying around, or 5. I'll have to use probably 2 of those to continue making the batten, because I'm going to be short of batten. I think I've got 96 batten, and I need about 108. So I'll be ripping that down to the sizes of the batten that I was doing originally, which is around about 50 mil. So here's this great lump of trunk which I found, and then it's just a matter of marking an angle. It's where it's going to sit on the rafter roughly, and then cutting through it so that I can put a decent size screw or whatever through it, and that will just stop me from wanting to push forward, because obviously when I'm pushing to get up onto the roof, or when I'm exiting the roof onto the boarding's going to be wanting to move forward. So the idea is that you want to do something where if you've got a standard sort of aluminium tower, it's going to have stabilizing legs on it which kick out there, and so this is a wooden trunk version of that. It's just a stabilizing leg, and what that will enable to do is, as I push up to get onto the roof, or as I step down from the roof onto the trestles, it's not going to want to push the boards forward. Hope that makes sense. Train going past as I do my audio. I've got the window open because it's quite a nice evening this evening here in La Ferté-Banard. So get this trunk in, get it attached. With that, then that trestle's sort of more or less done. I don't know what else to tell you about this. If there's any more news, the mayor, the former mayor, he sort of visits me on a daily basis now. He was round slightly earlier. At the moment he's got a bad back, which means he can't take the rest of the books that are still sitting in the barn. I said, don't worry about it. It's not critical. As long as they're gone by the end of August, that will all be good. and he was saying that there's a bit of a to do with the people next door. In fact, another guy turned up slightly later in the afternoon. I was in the barn getting some tiles and stuff, and I heard someone saying, "Anybody there?" And in fact, it was the president of the syndicate of water, and he'd had it to do with the guy next door, the guy that's come up from Spain. Apparently, he hasn't paid his water bills in about 4 years, but because he's got kids there, they can't disconnect it, and which is right, it's rightly so. The kids shouldn't have to suffer because the dad's not paying the bills. But anyway, they're not happy with him at all. Um, and also they're not happy that he's got two kids in there because he's saying it's a I mean, the guy gave me a bit of a tour around of his house, and it was a bit of a dump, to be honest with you. I mean, I wouldn't fancy having a couple of kids in there myself, but he's got two young kids there. And then this president of the water guy was saying he would he's contemplating approaching social services about it, and I was like, well, you do whatever you do, and obviously, I'm busy with this renovation here. It's not something I want to be getting involved with. Most of the neighbours around there are quite nice people, and even the guy himself, I found him to be he's a nice enough guy. I can't say I agree with the fact that he's brought his kids here, but he's the dad, and he's doing whatever he's doing, and he was fine with me. So I'm just testing out the board on the left hand side. Check it's all right. So I haven't fallen through it yet, so that's good. Yeah, so it's the politics, isn't it? The politics of small towns, I suppose. The fact that things go on and people aren't happy about stuff. I mean, he's actually come all the way up from Spain to try and tidy up the garden and do the things that's been requested of him. So I don't think they should be too harsh on him. He's obviously trying his best, isn't he? But such is life. You're always going to have people that are going to judge how you live your life. All right. So whilst I was up there on the roof, just double checking the boards, I found this in the gutter, and this is the head, a rubber mallet head, which I found. Obviously, the last time it was used would have been a repair, I suppose, on the roof. Probably in the last 20 years. I mean, these things have been around about that long anyway. We started using them in landscaping a good 20 years ago, maybe a bit longer, for tapping down paving slabs and stuff. So I've just thought of the idea of, right, well, what I'll do is I'll give it a fresh bit of life. So one of the little branches that are there was more or less the same diameter as the whole of the mallet. So I've just quickly cut that off, see if it fits, check which end, see if it fits. Obviously it will do. And then you're just going to tap it on a little bit. And hey presto, I've got a free mallet, a free French mallet. There you go. And then it's just a question of, I would just want to, normally you would saw the center of the handle, the bar, which is gone through the head, and you'd put something normally, you put like a wedge or whatever in there, or we used to use just screws because it does the same thing. All that's going to do is expand the timber either side so that it fills out the gap of the whole of the head, and that way then it's not going to want to move when you use it. So this is what I'm doing now, just roughly sawing through enough just so that you can get the screw can get a grip on it, and then once the screw goes in, like I said, either side of that is gonna push out slightly with the force of the screw, and with that, I said I've got myself a new little mallet. They're actually smaller than the mallets you get or the mallets we tend to use in the UK, particularly for paving. They'll be about 3 or 4 times that size. And I believe I have an example I could show you. So I'm going to have a bit of a shifty round and see if I can find one. Which sure enough I should do, because I used to buy them in bulk, because we went through so many of them. So I'm going to just tape up the what's going to be the handle part of it, because obviously it's just rough wood. I don't want to get in splinters and stuff. And then I'll search for the comparison, the British one, so you can compare the sizes. We used to use them like Billio. They're great because they put less. You're less likely to crack the corner of a slab if you're using a rubber mallet than if you're using a timber one. So there's a French one, and then we'll just have a wind around, see what I can find, and then I can show you. There you go. So UK one is on my right hand, French one is in my left hand. There you go. And then just a final look. So this is already ready to rock and roll. Some branches there, they're going to have to come off up high, get them out of the way. I did the right hand side bit more or less. The right hand side is more or less clear now with the ivy and everything else. Anyway, that's my video for today. I hope you enjoyed it. Thanks ever so much for watching, and thanks to everyone that's recently bought me a coffee. That's very, very sweet, and it's much appreciated. Thanks ever so much, and I'll see you soon.